I was wondering, like, you mentioned John Mayer and you mentioned these type of artists. Is that the kind of music you were into as a kid? Like, it was...
I was a big pop head.
Really?
I would like Bruno Mars and like all the classic 2010 hits. Binged all of that. But I also grew up on like, my mum loved like Michael Jackson, and my dad had the Eagles and the band thing coming. And when I got into my own music taste, it was more the pop stuff.
How did you get into music? Like, aside from your parents' collections, where were you? Like, you were on the internet at this point looking for music?
I think it was YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube was like the greatest place to find music. Like, those like, you know, remember those blue background YouTube videos and they had the white lyrics on them and it would just be rolling.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
Like those, I used to watch a lot of those where it would just, because there weren't music videos as accessible, some of them wouldn't put on YouTube and stuff because it was still like a growing platform.
Yeah.
They used to post those like lyric videos. It'd be like a random account just posting.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. And obviously as time got better, then your Bluetooth thing, like for MP3 to MP3 to another thing, and then iTunes, obviously. But that was my taste. It was just like straight up pop. And around 13, 14, a friend of mine put me onto Swedish House Mafia.
Nice.
And I had always looked at EDM as an outsider, like, oh yeah, nah.
Right.
But then he made me listen to it. Maybe it's peer pressure, I was like wanting to like it, and so I tried to. But I remember listening to it. I was on a bus with him, and he was sharing his earphones with me, and
that's back with the wired headphones. You take one each.
Yeah. And I listened to this song and it just like moved my leg. I was like, this is sick. And it's like that steady rhythm of like the 4 on the floor thing. And then I just got into like dance music completely. And then obviously going to I went to an Avicii concert, my first ever concert ever. And obviously probably the most impactful concert I've ever been to, because that led to me making music, because I went there and I just stopped. There was one song that played and I just looked up and I was like, this is amazing. Like, and then you can see it, because I think electronic music has always been a universal language, and that's what I love about it, because no matter what kind of genre it is within that space, like anyone in the world can enjoy it. And that's why it relies so heavily on melody rather than the actual songwriting. And
so that concert was like a pivotal point.
Yeah.
But so before that, had you not even played with the idea of making music?
No, it was just that brief stint of me trying to be a rock star and giving up.
Like a classic kid playing with a guitar for a bit. But it wasn't a serious goal.
No, it wasn't a serious goal. And I'd always sing and stuff, like go on road trips with my family and sing, but it wasn't like...
You weren't trying to be a singer.
Yeah. And my parents would obviously tell me, like, gas me up and be like, yeah, you can sing, but it wasn't like, you should do this.
Yeah. How old were you at the Avicii concert?
15.
Okay.
Like literally, we're coming up to 10 years in this December that... so it was quite hard when he passed, but I remember how much influence he had over me. And the next day I remember just going straight to YouTube, how to make music like Avicii. And like, I didn't know anything about music. I didn't know what keys were, what scales were, and I was remixing like Coldplay songs in like a completely different key, and it sounded terrible. And my first song ever that I ever made on Fruity Loops is on YouTube, and it's terrible.
Is it?
Yeah.
So are people going to find it?
Nah. But I'm leaving it on there. Someone will find it eventually. Yeah. But that kind of consumed my life, I think. And then I was like, I'm going to be India's answer to Martin Garrix. Like, that's going to be me. Because I saw him, another 16, 17-year-old, just like popping off. And I was like, yeah, I can do this too.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I tried that for a long time. I was making hardcore EDM, and I was DJing around the city. Even though I was like underage, I was like going around DJing in the city and stuff. And I started getting loads of recognition in terms of like radio podcast plays that the DJs had, and like Nicky Romero put me on one of his things.
Sick.
I thought, oh cool, I can start.
So you were like moving.
Yeah,
as
I was
a
moving
DJ producer,
slowly. I sent a bunch of stuff to labels, like dance labels, and I got rejected a couple of times. And I think the key thing I've had throughout that whole period to now is is I was always honest about the music, and I always knew if it was good or not good. And so at that point in time, I didn't put out a lot of music because I was like, no, this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough. And then something changed around a year before I moved here, and I was like, I want to do more musical, very musical, like I want to start playing instruments again, and I want to go into soft electronic music stuff you go to the beach and listen to, like some beautiful place and stuff.
What inspired that change?
There was an artist called Port Robinson and Madion, and I started listening to them a lot, and they made that switch too, because they were like more heavy dance stuff, and they made that switch, and I was like, that's so cool. And they had like a whole visual element to their whole approach, and that's really inspired my visual element things. And that's when I was like, oh, you can do that. You can, like, they were singing, they went from DJing to like playing and singing on stage, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I really want to do that. And the idea was still to get other people singing on my songs, and I produce them and I go play them live. And that was just before moving here. And suddenly my world just opened up,